Doesn't look like he's in here yet, so we will just go after it here. But he's at Build Hawaii with Chris Okamura, and they're getting ready to have an amazing event there. And so we're excited for them filling that room up, and they're building momentum there in Hawaii. So they've been doing a monthly event, which we really highly recommend. So Chris has been leading it and heading it up. So they're doing an event every month and just starting to build that momentum. So pretty exciting stuff over there. And our guest for today, you guys all know her. She's around a lot and always got amazing things to share with us. And Casey, we are excited to have you here today, and always grateful when you give us some time and give us some of your wisdom. So we're going to just introduce Casey Council Jiha right now, and you can take it away. Thank you for being here. Everybody give a big clap and big welcome to Casey. Just give it to us.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. So good to be with you. I got the call from Brent last night. He was in Hawaii. He's like, it's 10:30 tomorrow. And he was going by Hawaii time. I'm like, it was? And he's like, well, no, 1:30 your time. I'm like, okay, well, then I'll move it to 1:30 my time. Make sure I show up at the right time in the right place. That's always important. So good to see so many friendly and familiar faces on the call today. And so I've got a quick topic for us. We'll leave it open for questions at the end. However, for those of you that I might be meeting for the first time, my name's Casey, and holy smokes, I've been a licensed agent for 20 years now. I got licensed at the end of 2004, and 2 months into the business, sat in a team building class, actually, with a gentleman by the name of Rick Jiha and a woman by the name of Beverly Steiner, who owned Keller Williams offices at that time. I left that class that day and called my mom and my sister, said I just met the Sean Connery, Jesus Christ of real estate. Little did I know 3 years later, we would get together and have the opportunity to do 16 years of life and business together. So I look back now and think about January 2017 and the pivot to EXP. And I'm using the word pivot versus change. This is really important language in recruiting, because change creates fear of loss for so many people, and it has them freeze because most people don't like change, even if it's going to be positive change. So I want you to write down the word pivot versus change and start to think about that in a different way. However, as we made that pivot and change in January of 2017, when EXP was only 2,400 agents and everyone wondering if the science experiment was going to work and discrediting people and their decisions to move to this company, it's pretty incredible to see what's happened 8 short years later. And so what I want to talk about today is, in this context of using our influence for attraction and recruiting, number one, the mindset that goes behind it. And so I'm going to have you each rate yourself, and I'm going to talk fast. I know I'm going to talk fast because I've only got a short time with you. I'm going to ask you to each rate yourself. You don't have to share if you don't want to. However, I'm going to give you the option to in the chat how you answer these 3 questions. I'm mostly interested in what your answer is to number 3. However, question number 1 is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself? 10 being absolutely don't even need to think about it, moving into action, willing to learn would be a 10, and not willing to learn, 1, not so much. Nothing new is getting in. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself as willing to learn? Great. Question number 2, on a scale of 1 to 10, learning to grow, where are you there? And it's okay if you're not a 10, by the way. A lot of people aren't. Willing to grow is the second question. So question number 1 is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how willing am I to learn? Question number 2, how willing am I to grow? And then question number 3, how willing am I to change? Actually change. And for those of you that don't have 10s, that's totally fine. I want you to know that how you move from whatever number you're at to a 10 is a decision. And that happens in a moment. Death to all other options, anything that comes before, you can decide to be willing to learn, willing to grow, and willing to change. And if for some reason you didn't answer number 10 on the willing to change part, I want you to now put yourself in the position of a recruit. You're asking them to change. So everything starts from how we lead ourselves. And if I am a leader of myself that I don't answer 10 on the willing to change part, and yet here I am wanting to grow and build an organization that's going to require people make a change to join me, how is that going to actually happen as far as being aligned? And there's this, we say that everything is energy, and of course it is. However, when we look at the opportunity to fine tune and tweak alignment, you think about that on a car. It's like, man, what if the front tire had 30 pounds of pressure and the right front tire had, 40 pounds of pressure, and the back rear tire had on the right-hand side had 20 and the back rear on the left had 50. Like, how is your ride of life going to be if that's the alignment on the tire pressure, right? It's going to be a little bumpy. It's not going to be efficient. You're going to have lots of challenges that are self-created because you haven't taken the time to fine tune that alignment so that it's an equal pressure, and that dictates what your experience is going to be. So now I want you to relate that to this concept of, okay, I want to go out and use my influence to grow and build an organization. Well, if we think about that from the perspective of how a lot of agents think about that, based on the fact that only 10% of the agents that come to EXP are actually builders and are going to build something, they look at themselves in that space and go, oh, well, my market is buyers, sellers, investors, because I'm in real estate. But we look at it and go, my market is buyers, sellers, investors, agents, because I'm in real estate. And those all fit into one category, not two categories. It's how are we going to serve the people that are in front of us? And so when we look at this agent category of how am I going to serve an agent that's in front of me? How am I going to influence an agent that's in front of me? How am I going to bring value to an agent that's in front of me? Well, it's really important to do that internal check on how willing am I to learn, grow, and change myself. More importantly, how am I demonstrating that in what I get up and do every day, whether that's through your personal routines and habits, whether that's through the mindset that you have, whether that's through how you regulate your attitude, whatever that is. And I'm asking myself that all the time. What's the future version of Casey look like? What's Casey 5.0 look like? I'm going to be 50 next month. So I'm like, okay, that's Casey 5.0. And then next year will be Casey 5.1. And what's that version of Casey look like? And what else is there for me to grow and to change and to learn that I don't yet know, that I haven't yet changed? So that's the foundation of where I want to start the conversation today and bring awareness to, as each of you are out using, and me included, using my influence now with other agents in an agent community. For me to be most effective, like a hot knife through butter, it requires me intentionally putting myself in a space of being willing to learn, grow, and change. And once I regulate that and get that as my foundation, and now I go out into the world and I'm going to interact and engage with people, then it creates a totally different come from when I've got that foundation in place versus, yeah, I'm not changing anything today. And willing to grow, yeah, I need a break from growing because it's the breakdown, breakthrough. I'm tired of the breakdown piece, then the growth piece, the consistency, whatever. We all go through it, right? So as we build on this foundation, now we take that to the next level. And so the piece that I really want to hone in today is a strategy piece and a technique piece that I believe the majority of people miss just because you don't have a background in direct sales. I'm going to say that again. It's a strategy piece that the majority of people miss because you do not have a background in direct sales. So I spent I started my business in direct sales at the end of 2007, been with one company since then. And for 13 years, I was out of real estate production as of January of 2009. And all the way up until 2020, that's what I did full time before coming to work with Rick on the EXP front of things. Still have that business. I'll be in Spain next month as a keynote speaker for the annual Success Summit that happens for the Western European region. And I treasure what I learned as a business person in business skills and life as a result of that business. So if you don't have the same background that I have, here's what's important for you to know. And it is that we get so hung up sometimes on sponsoring a person, so hung up on sponsoring a person. And we put so much importance on, if I could just sponsor this person into my EXP organization, everything will change for me. And that is not the most effective way to think. I'm going to invite you to think differently. It is, you sponsor a person, great, but that's one person. You actually sponsoring a network. You're sponsoring that person's network. So when you sponsor a person, I'm going to invite you to start thinking about it differently. Like, you're not sponsoring a person, you're sponsoring a network. And when you think about the fact that a person leads you to their network and that network becomes an organization that you can grow through and from, you don't put so much importance on the person. It's the importance on, okay, yes, that person's going to open up that network, but as that person aligns with me and comes into my organization at EXP, how am I not making it about that person? How am I making it about the network? And this comes down to something that is not going to be new for any of you. And that is what a lot of people talk about in creating a contact list. And so when you have someone that's coming into your organization that wants to build, that wants to grow, the size of the list that they create of relationships or their network is going to determine the size of the opportunity that they see in front of them. And most people do not take the time to sit down and be very intentional about creating that list. I always say get it to 200. At least 200. If you get it 200, get it to 500. Like, be very intentional about that, because you're sponsoring a network. You're not sponsoring a person. So then what is the strategy behind that as that person comes on board? Well, there's a 48-hour strategy that we work with and use, and that's before there's any kind of public announcement that is made. And it's a critical window of time before anyone knows that this individual is moving, or it could be a team, or it could be a broker owner, it doesn't matter. They're making that move. And in that 48-hour window of time, as right before the license gets transferred, it's a critical window of influence for that agent that is going to be newly joining the organization, to have that list in place and go, okay, who are my top 20? Who are my top 50 most influential people that I want to be in business with? And give them the courtesy of a phone call that says, hey, I wanted you to hear it from me. I didn't want you to see it on social media. I didn't want you to hear it from someone else, based on the relationship that we have, based on, us being colleagues, based on us being friends, whatever there is to edify that relationship. I wanted to take the time to pick up the phone and have you hear it from me, not somewhere else. And what that conversation does in that 48-hour window before the license gets moved is it gives the agent that's coming to EXP the opportunity to, in a no pressure, full energy way, share, I'm making a pivot. And it's a really big pivot based on, this many years in the business. And here's why. The most important piece is the why. It's the opportunity to share the vision that they have moving forward and what they're going to create. Most people are not out there sharing what their vision is. And so there's not a place for other people to see themselves being a part of it. And so in this critical window of time, to have an agent that is making that move, take the time to invest in those relationships as a result of the respect and care that they have for that relationship. I wanted you to hear it from me, share what the vision is. If you're open to having a conversation about how you could see yourself in that vision, benefit from it, or, be able to take what you're doing to an even different level, be honored to have the conversation with you. And it is a quick conversation that creates an opening for someone to go, oh, that'd be interesting. Yeah, I want to talk more. It's not this sit on the phone for an hour and have the conversation right then and there. It's that 48 hours of time beforehand. So in that transition piece, you've got this opportunity that once it's gone, because once it hits social and everybody knows about it and is talking about it, you can't pick up the phone and say, hey, I wanted you to hear it from me, because it's already out there and it's already public. So that is a strategy that you can use for somebody that is serious about building and wants to build with momentum, like right out of the gate, and create that kind of energy and momentum right out of the gate. The second piece is, in this context of you're sponsoring a network, not a person, is that as that person organizes those relationships, you can see, hey, who do we know together? Who do we know together that we're going to talk to together? Because think about it, an agent that's coming that's never built an organization like we build in EXP, like we're used to going out and procuring the listings on our own. We're up against competing with other agents. We're never working really together per se. If you're an experienced or seasoned agent, you're out there doing it on your own. And so when you think about like, okay, well, what if I know Marguerite's coming into my business? Let's say she's an agent that's going to join my organization. And on Marguerite's relationship list is Tyler. Marguerite can go to Tyler for sure. But if Marguerite and I both have a relationship with Tyler and we talk to Tyler together, there's now a layer of credibility and influence. And Tyler's automatically left out because we're already working on something together that he's not a part of. And so taking the time, like right out of the gate, like for Marguerite and I to be able to approach Tyler and say, hey, we're working on a project together. We're super excited about it. We were sitting, we were talking, we were strategizing. We've got a really big vision. We're energized about what we're doing. And your name came up because. And now Tyler's like, my name came up because, oh, wow, well, that's really cool. What are you guys working on? What are you guys doing? We have the opportunity now in partnership and demonstrating partnership and team and collaboration and these building of communities, which is what we're doing actually in organizations, to demonstrate that right out of the gate. And if I know the key people that Marguerite has relationship with, and I know where I've got crossover relationships with those, we're able to work in partnership together at an entirely different level, and me to drive that bus because that is my focus, right? Marguerite's still in production and she's growing and building an organization. My sole focus is organization building. So I am the driver behind that. And again, I've sponsored Marguerite, but it's not on Marguerite. It's now who's Marguerite's network, that we have a shared network that we can grow and build together immediately out of the gate. So these are some strategies and ways of working that change the game of how you can grow, build, duplicate, and multiply and scale an organization right out of the gate, just by doing a couple of key things that most people don't take the time to actually do or make sure that gets done for someone that says that they want to build. Number one, we work on the foundation of, am I willing to learn, grow, and change? Got to be at a 10. In the language that we're using for people that we're talking to as far as agents, it's about a pivot, right? Okay, what if we did this pivot in your business? And what could that mean for you a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, right? I always say my job, my perspective, that my role as a leader is number one, to be a dealer in hope. Next year's got to be better than this year. 3 years from now, I've got to be better than a year from now. 5 years from now has got to be better than that. Like, I've got to be the dealer in hope, but it can't just be hope dope. It's got to be actual hope that's real, that there is a brighter future ahead. Number two, the reason it's real is because of the opportunities and the doors that I can open for that person. And then number three, because I've got a proven business system that I can walk them through, that they can grow, create on their own, in business for themselves, but not in business by themselves, to make that a reality. And so when you think about leadership from that perspective, and how you're going to go out and influence people, you get yourself in place first. You realize you're sponsoring a network, not an individual. And then you've got a strategy that's that 48-hour strategy for your builder, and how you have like organized those relationships and those contacts. Think about it. If they have 200 relationships, you don't want to do what most people do, which is talk to the ones that are the low hanging fruit when they're excited and have the most energy out of the gate, because that's what people do. It's like, oh, well, who do I feel like I have the most influence over? And I'll talk to that person first. No, if you've got somebody, I just always say it's like a stick of dynamite that lights. Maybe you've got 30, 60 days with that person, they get overwhelmed with life and something happens, and now your access to their network starts to close because of whatever reason. You've got that 30, 45 day window of time to have access open to that network, to be able to work with that person is critical. And what you want access to is the most credible, influential relationships that they have, and the ability for them to bring you in that space of partnership and trust into those conversations with those relationships. So that has been a lot of information, and I know it was delivered in fire hose fashion. Fortunately, this is recorded, but I'm going to stop and create a space for questions, comments, aha, and dialogue in the remaining time that we have together about the concepts that we talked about so far today.
I need to send this again. Yeah, I love it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had a question, Casey. Like, I've been here 9 years now, so right around the same time you guys came in, and I think sometimes you get a little stuck. And so that's why I put like 7s on all mine. And so what is your best advice to go beyond that? I mean, I understand it's a decision. I guess I'm trying to figure out what is the best route to take to push myself. I know no one else can push me, to push myself to get beyond those.
Yeah. Well, tell me what the stuck is.
I would probably say overwhelm and lack of focus. If I were advising me, I would say I'm not focused. I'm still in production. So, I'm still producing. I'm trying to do all these different things. And I guess that's probably, in my opinion, probably lack of focus. And just because I'm not focused, I get overwhelmed. And then I get overwhelmed and then I do nothing.
Okay. And is that self-sabotage, avoidance, or just a habit?
Probably all of the above.
Oh, look at you. You're such a high overachiever, Marguerite. I love that about you. Okay. So here's one thing that you can pivot immediately. And so you're still in production, right?
Yeah.
The question for you, is there ever an open house that you would hold or have an agent on your sales team hold that you don't have a system or process to capture the contact information and build relationship with potential prospects that walk through that open house?
No, I have that in place.
Okay. How about on a broker tour?
Same.
So you're capturing the information of the agents that come through and you have a systematic way,
Oh, the
a
agent.
system. Yep.
Okay. No, I'm not.
Okay, so there's a gap that immediately you can change. So if you look at yourself as a real estate agent and who you can service is buyers, sellers, investors, and agents, you have the buyer, seller, investor system in place for all of that front facing opportunity where you've got those people coming to you and you've got a gap on the front facing opportunity of agents that are walking through your door.
That's true. Because I wrote that down when you said those 4, because I didn't really add the agent to those 4.
Yeah, so that immediately changes that. It's not one additional thing you're doing. It is doing what you're already doing with these other 3 and having a system and process in place. And maybe you have a conversation with someone that comes through that day on a broker tour that is a great conversation. And it's something as simple as, or somebody that writes an offer on one of your listings or that's bringing the buyer on them. And it's something as simple as just saying, hey, listen, I enjoy working with you. Would you be open to a conversation on how we could partner more closely together moving forward? It's that easy, right? And so it isn't one more thing. It isn't a whole, I got to go do this on top of it. It is doing what you're already doing and just not leaving this piece out. So, I mean, Kim Renshaw, she's an agent in our organization on the Central Coast. And we were having this conversation and she works land listings a lot. I said, when's the last brokers open that you had? And, she told me, I said, how many agents came through? She said, close to 60. And I said, great. What was the system and process you had to, capture all of their information and then have them just like you would on a lead follow-up after they walk through your door, if they're a potential buyer or seller? What's that system you have in place? She goes, okay, 60 missed opportunities. 60 missed opportunities. So leverage the places that you're already at and make it one business instead of 2 businesses. And it is one place that you're serving and it's into the real estate community in one of those 4 areas.
Love it. Thank you.
Helpful?
Yes.
Cool. All right, Mr. Costello. Tom, also known as Tom.
Hey, Casey. I love what you just did. I'm taking a whole page full of notes here. One of the things that you in particular are famous for is your 3-way talk, your follow-up talks, the edification call. You didn't mention that in your process here. I was just curious where you would put that in the process, or am I looking at a different part of this that is not really part of the conversation?
So third-party validation is a lever for upgrading somebody that is in an exposure process. The exposure process hasn't happened yet in the conversation that we're in. So that's a tool that comes as the exposure process is happening. And it could also be something that you use right out of the gate in the example that I was using about Marguerite and Tyler. If I'm going to get in and help build and work with Marguerite right out of the gate where we have a shared circle of influence, I may be at her office and we may be making those calls together. In the context, that's a third party validation of sorts right out of the gate. If I'm driving that conversation saying, Tyler, Marguerite, and I were sitting here, we're working on something really fun, and your name came up.
That totally makes sense, because as I was listening to you talk, and you said you're not sponsoring an individual, you're sponsoring their network, which seems that I hate to use the term upline, but if you and I are working together and I'm new, it seems like your first goal is to not get my list, but just start digging into my list with me so that you build the relationships with me as we're talking about, as you just said, Tom and I are working on this great project. Your name came up. Would love to chat with you about it. Are you open? Are you opposed to a conversation, cup of coffee, whatever? Just to get, to establish the relationship, build the rapport, and see if there's an interest to have a conversation.
Yep. And then I'm also modeling the behavior, right? So, I remember I did this. There was a gal. Oh my goodness. It's so funny. So she didn't want me on the calls with her. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. She was nervous, because she wanted to be the person that she was a high D. And she was also outside of her comfort zone, and she didn't want me on the calls. I said, that's fine. So I knew when she was making calls, so I made myself available to stand by on text because I know she was going to be texting me, and I wanted to be able to support her via text while she was on the phone floundering her way through things. And so she no, it was good. It worked out, right? It's just like you just got to meet people where they're at and then work with them based on where they'll let you work with them. And so she'd reached out to an agent that she knew that had already looked at EXP. And I said, great. So I'm texting her. I'm like, how long ago was it? And she said, oh, it was like a year and a half. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many things that are new and different since that year and a half. I said, okay. So my text back to her was, hey, listen, she shared her story about why she's here. She's been in the business 24 years, looked up and realized during COVID, she had zero retirement. Frederick Gia, she's been watching just thrive and the people around him thrive. They finally had a conversation. It's why she made the pivot, so that tomorrow is going to be better today and she can have a future. And she just asked the woman for support. I said, ask her for help. And she said, well, what do you mean? And I said, just tell her there's a ton of stuff that's changed in the last year and a half. Ask her if she'd be willing as a service to you to spend 12 minutes, on the one that we were using, watch that version of the model explained, put together 3 questions and come to a conversation with your business partner, me, and have the opportunity to ask those so that I could answer them. And that'll help your training for, what you're going to be doing moving forward. And the woman did that. And, so I said at the beginning, I'm like, here, listen, I'm not here to recruit at EXP. I know you're supporting so-and-so with their training. I appreciate your help and your time. What were the questions? We went through and answered them. It allowed me to plant a seed at the end of it because she had over 2,000 agent relationships from what she'd done before she went into real estate. And I just said, hey, here's what it could look like. And if you're ever open to a conversation about it, like, this is your gal. And so it doesn't what happened for the new person that we had sponsored is her belief went through the roof because of that experience, because I was in the trenches guiding that conversation, working it with her, where she didn't have the confidence or the certainty or the clarity, but I do. So the point of this conversation is if you want to work, grow, build, and scale quickly, you've got to be able to create partnership and trust. You got to demonstrate that by your level of credibility and willing to roll up your sleeves and get in the trenches. And how do you do that? You do that where you can get in and work like a hot knife through butter, which is going to be a shared circle of influence if you've got someone that has made a list of what those relationships are. And it's okay if there's not a shared circle of influence. You can still do it in a way that I did it with her. But it makes all of the difference because what you want is you as soon as someone is like here, it is the energy, the excitement, the natural place for it to go is down, not up. And so you've got to, from my perspective, put yourself in a position to build belief. Oh my goodness, I made a good decision. Oh my goodness, I'm so happy I'm a business with Casey. Oh my goodness. Okay. I don't need to know it all because she does, and she's going to be here working with me, and we can build and grow this thing together. In the times that I want to do that, I've got a partner that's going to do that with me. So it's always an opportunity to level up, to skill up, and to lead by example.
Yeah, I've got a question. Thank you. That 48 hours, I think, was just amazing because that's a paradigm shift. I didn't really think about, the idea that you're getting a hold of their network. You have access to their network, and you're building a community. And that first, it's almost like rescuing someone first 48 hours. But I was wondering, I know there's a lot of ways to skin the cat in terms of some people are going to do social media and hit it that way. But if it was the old school of, I'm just wondering if I did 14 full presentations a month, where they get an introduction, they see a video, they meet with a team member, a full presentation. Do you think 14 of those? How many months do you think it would take to get 10 grand to get to 10 grand a month? Just, is there a rough way of figuring would that take 2.5 years? You could get to 10 grand a month doing 14 presentations a month. Do you think that's realistic?
I would say that there's not a truthful answer to that question other than go do it and see what your results are. Here's the things that you have no control over. You have no control of the quality of the prospect. You have no control of the timing of the prospect. You have no control over the level of skills and certainty of the person that's doing those 14 or who they're putting them in front of. You have no control of how many upgrades are actually happening to keep that process going and make sure that that person gets upgraded. And because of all of those unknowns, it's impossible to say that any number of anything is going to get you to 10 grand a month. So my invitation would be go run your own case study and see. And then you can speak from whatever your experience was, but those are always going to be the unknowns. So I don't make any kind of if A plus B equals C until that's going to be different for every person. Just like the number of listing presentations you've got to go on to be able to secure a listing, it's going to be so individual. There's part of it that's left up to the system, but then so much of it that's not actually. Great question, though.
No, thank you.
Sorry for the disappointing answer. I know that's not what you wanted to hear.
That's all right. When you said learn, grow, and change, I feel like I'm really giving a 10 on learning and growing and being willing to change. I put a 5 in there because, I obviously haven't arrived. But what are you noticing overall in your team of, let's say on that area of change? What would be the biggest thing? Just what are you seeing needs to change?
People's willingness to change themselves is always the number one thing to change. And that is an entirely personal journey that has a different timing for everyone, if at all. And so, and my perspective on that is the only person whose change behavior I can actually control and influence is my own. So I go demonstrate what it looks like for people, and that's what I can do. And keep inviting them into, if there was something for you to change, what would it be? Like Marguerite, we dialed in what Marguerite's was. She had a gap in, like, she's looking at it like sales business and building an organization. She's looking at it like two different things, which is why she didn't have a system and process for the agent side of things, right? Okay, well, could she quickly change that? She absolutely can quickly change that. Will she? I believe she will. But you never know until it actually happens, right? So it is. Yeah, absolutely. And it's being okay, am I going to be the person that is just like, hey, here's the honest conversation. What you do with it's up to you. Absolutely no judgment. Everybody does things in their own time. But my responsibility, like my sponsor told me this when I started my direct sales career so many years ago, there's only one person you ever need to recruit, and it's yourself. And if you're recruited, the rest of the world will eventually come with you. But if you're not, no one will. So you just got to make sure that every day you're at a 10 on those things as you go out into your life, into your world, and everything else, like who the people are going to be will show up over time. And then they're going to come and they're going to go. And then you're going to have the ones that stay. And then they're going to get better and better over time because you're going to get better and better over time. And that's what everybody's signed up for. And by the way, it's going to be a 5, 7, 10-year process. Not a 1 or 2 year. So,
yeah,
all right.
What I'm hearing is be the person you want to recruit. But anyway, thanks.
Yeah, and continue to upgrade that person. All right. I know we are 4 minutes past the top of the hour. I have gone overtime. So I want to acknowledge that. Thank you all for being here and the opportunity to be with you today. Make it a great rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.
Just for everybody that might be staying on for the sales call, Brent was not able to get the person he was thinking. So we're just going to punt that to next week. So next week we will see you right here. Same time, same place, and wish Hawaii an amazing build. If you know Chris Okamara, shoot him a text, or any of the Hawaii people over there, shoot him a text and let him know you're rooting for him. Talk to you next week, everybody.